I have been a police officer for a very, very long time. And you see these notes in my hand because I'm also a black preacher. And if you know anything about black preachers, we'll close and then we'll keep going for another 20 minutes. Amen? So I need us to keep pushing this thing forward. So I've been a police officer for a very, very long time. And I mean, I predated technology. I'm talking about before pagers. Laugh if you want to, but I'm telling the truth. I predate war on our fellow man. I mean, war on drugs. I predate all that. I predate so much, and I've been through ebbs and flows, and I've been through good and bad times, and still I absolutely love being a police officer. I love being a police officer because it's always been a calling for me and never a job. And even with that, my personal truth is that law enforcement is in a crisis. It's an invisible crisis, and it has been for many, many years. Even though we in law enforcement say, you know what, we can't arrest our way out of this. We say in law enforcement things like, yeah, it's illegal to profile, and you know what, in law enforcement we even agree that we have to adopt this thing and become more oriented to community policing. And yet all the while, still, we continue in the same vein that contradicts everything that we just admitted. And so that's the reason for me several years ago, because I was tired of the racism, I was tired of discrimination, I was tired of the isms and the schisms. I was just so tired. I was tired of the vicious cycle, and I was tired of it even in a beloved agency, in a department that I still love today. And so my wife and I, we sat down and we decided and we targeted a date that we would retire. We would retire and I would go off into the sunset, maybe do ministry full time. Love my wife a long time, y'all know what I'm talking about. But we decided that I would retire, but then there was a higher power than I. There was a love for the city that I loved, that I grew up in, that I was educated in. A city that pulled my heart back into the system. So we didn't retire. We didn't retire, and so what happened was, over the next couple of, I would say 18 months, 19 months, I had this passion to implement some radical policing. And so now, over the next 19 months, I shifted, and I transcended from being a drug sergeant, ready to retire as a drug sergeant, and went from level to level to level until I find myself as a district commander. District commander of the worst district in Baltimore City. We call it the Eastern District. The most violent district. The most impoverished district. 46% unemployment in that district. National rating at that time. National rating. The AIDS and the tuberculosis was always on the top 10 list for zip codes. For cities across the nation, or just zip codes across the nation. The top 10. I didn't say state, I didn't say city. That little neighborhood. And I said, you know what? We got to do something different. We got to do something different. We got to think radical. We got to think outside the box. And so in order to bring change that I desperately wanted and I desperately felt in my heart, I had to start listening to that inner spirit. I had to start listening to that man on the inside that went against everything that I had been trained to do. But we still did it. We still did it because we listened to that inner spirit. Because I realized that if I was to see real police reform in the community that I had authority over for public safety. And so we had to change our stinking thinking. We had to change it. And so what we did is we started to think holistically and not paramilitarily. So we thought differently. And then we started to realize that it could never be and never should have been us versus them. And so I decided to come to that intersection where I could meet all classes, all races, all creed, all color. Where I would meet the businesses, and I would meet the faith-based, and I would meet the eds, the meds, and I would meet all people that made up the communities that I had authority over. And so I met them and I began to listen. See, police have a problem. Oftentimes we want to bring things into the community. We want to come up with these extravagant strategies and deployments, but we never talk to the community about them. And we shove them into the community and say, take that. But we said we got to get rid of that stinking thinking, and so we started talking to our communities and said, you know what, this is your community table. We're going to pull up a chair and we want to hear from you. What's going to work in your community? And there's some great things started to happen. So here's the thing. I had to figure out a way to shift 130 cops that were under my tutelage, from being occupiers of communities to being partners. I had to figure out how to do that, because here's the crazy thing. In law enforcement, we have evolved into something incredible. Listen, we have become great protectors. We know how to protect you. But we have exercised that arm so much, so very much. If I was a natural police department, and I represented the police department, you will see this incredible, beautiful 23-inch arm. Man, it's pretty. It's cut up. No fat on it. It look good. It just look good. That's a great arm. Protection. That's who we are. But we've exercised it so much sometimes that it has led to abuse. It's led to coldness and callous and dehumanized us. And we've forgotten the mantra across this nation is to protect and serve. Y'all don't know that? Protect and serve. So you look at the other arm and then you look at it and there it is. You know, it's kind of weak. It looks sickly. It's withering and it's dying. Because we've invested so much in our protective arm. But we forgot to treat our communities like they're our customers. Like they're our sons and our daughters, our brothers and our sisters, our mothers and our fathers. And so somehow along the way, we've gotten out of balance. And because we are a proud profession, it is very hard for us to look in the mirror and see our mistakes. It's even harder to make a change. And so, as I try to hurry and get through this, I need to say this. It's not just law enforcement, though. Because every one of us makes up a community. Everybody makes up a community. And as communities, can I say this? We have put too much responsibility on law enforcement. Too much. And then we have the audacity and the nerve to get upset with law enforcement when we take action. There's no way in the world that we, as a community, should be calling the police for kids playing ball in the street. No way in the world that we should be calling